And I'm doing good on the blog. I had 22 blogs this month. Hi, I'm McCauley, and tonight we're going to talk about toughening up. And I want to lead in with a little family story. Vincent, our 15-year-old son, was 3 years old. And we were over at my mom's house and had a family gathering. And she had a little kitty. And she called him My Key, for my kitty, my key. And so Vince was playing with the cat and playing with him, and all of a sudden my niece, who's a few years older than Vince at the time, she still is a few years older, but she goes up to my mother and she says, Grandma, Vincent's being rough with the cat. And you never quite know what my mother's going to say, right? So my mother glances over and she looks at us and she said, that cat's going to have to learn to toughen up. And isn't it true that he wasn't being super rough with him. He was just being a little, and my mother's like, life is tough. The cat's got to toughen up, and you know what? We have to toughen up. One of the things that happens to us is we leave here and we're on fire. We're going to lose weight. We're going to exercise. And then things happen in our life and it sidetracks us. I call it the train. I'm always on a train. Let's say the engine is, something happens at work, or maybe I feel unappreciated. So the engine's there, I'm unappreciated. Then I start adding cars. I go into to my whole life. Well, what about this time when I was unappreciated? And that time, and this time. Pretty soon it's like a huge 50-car train, and it's racing down the track right towards the refrigerator, or right towards the pantry. Or you're nervous about something, and you go, what if this happens? That's the engine. And then you think, well, that could happen, this could happen, and you're building those cars, and it starts speeding. We're going to talk about resilience in the face of adversity, because when a crisis emerges, certain people start moving and they start to solve it. And other people say, give me some food and that'll help me get through that. Resilience helps you transform stressful circumstances from disasters into possibilities, opportunities. So often we look at our lives and we say, I'll be able to lose weight when my life calms down, when things aren't as hectic, when the kids are older, when my mother isn't sick, when this happens. I told it before, every day there's something else that's going to happen. So how do we learn to toughen up? Well, one of the things is you seek supportive friends. We have a whole support group here at Pray It Off. When we come here each week and we have the small group discussion, we talk about how can we support each other and get through this weight loss battle. One of the things it talks about is embracing change. I'm not good at embracing change. How many people here would say, I love change, bring it on, it's the greatest thing? I'm getting better at it because I realize sometimes that with change, it's an opportunity for me to say, wow, what does God want from this? Or what does he want me to learn from this? So let's look at it like a curious child. When something happens or when someone does something, have you ever said this to them? Someone yells at you or is very rude. Did you ever say, how curious that you just spoke to me like that? Is there anything else going on in your life that I don't know about? Is there something going on? How curious. Instead of going, well, you can't talk to me like that, and blah, 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 and then there's a big fight. How many times do we take offense at situations when we don't have all the information? So we need to sometimes be curious, ask questions, say, what can I learn from this? And do we learn from past experiences? How many times have we lost weight and gained it back? How many times? Hundreds. Don't we realize that if we eat BLTs every day and pizza every Wednesday and cheeseburgers and bagels, that we're going to gain weight? And then we get all disgusted with ourselves and then we go and we try again. When are we going to break that train? The engine is going into that fugue state where you're not thinking about what you're eating, and then you add the cars, and then you go back, and it's all this self-flagellation where you go, oh, why can't I do better? What's wrong with me? Oh, I hate myself. Satan, if we can believe in a loving and benevolent God, I have no problem believing in evil also. I have no problem believing that there is evil in the world. And that evil does not want us to lose weight. It doesn't want us to be happy. It wants us to hate ourselves. It wants us to separate ourselves from God. So we need to take responsibility for ourselves. A lot of times people pin their problems on other people or outside events. It wasn't my fault I gained weight this week. I went to a couple parties, or I went out to dinner, or I didn't have time to exercise, or this. There is certain weeks where you might gain a couple ounces or whatever. It doesn't define who you are. But if you're coming in here every week and you're gaining 3 pounds, and next week you gain 4 pounds, is your hat, your serious hat on losing weight? Are we really thinking about what we're doing here? We need to also think about how we can make things better for ourselves. One of the things I like about this is that some people are resilient just because they decide to be resilient. All week long at work I said, you know what? This job doesn't define who I am. I'm still Ellen McCauley. No matter what happened, I'm like, okay, sure, yeah. I didn't agonize over it. I didn't get upset about it. There's a lot of changes. There's this, there's that. We're moving. There's just so much, and people are like concerned, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. I felt better. I went home. I felt better. And somebody else here tonight said, every place where you work is terrible. I don't know, not many people, unless you work at Wegmans, I guess, think that their job is the greatest job in the world. You know, and what is it? Is it getting along with the other people? Is it the management? Is it this? I could work at McDonald's and I'd be coming home. Those fries weren't hot enough. And what about the buns? I was worried that we ran out of buns. No matter where I worked, I would worry and I do this. I gotta let it go and say, I can do the best job. And you know what helps me so much is I think about several things. I think about St. Paul in prison. He is happy no matter where he is. He's in prison. If your job's prison, think about St. Paul. I also think about the people who would give anything to have my job. Steve. Steve would love to be here. He'd love to work there. People who are homeless on the unemployment line. I go on a different train lately, this past week I'm trying to be on it, where I go, this could happen, but you know what? I'm lucky. I can pay the bills. I have this, I have that. And it helped me not want to have that extra serving of pretzels or whatever else I want. Sometimes it feels like the end of the world when something happens. But if we can step outside a situation and see that it's not, we can survive. It's all in our choice. How we react to a situation is our choice. And I think it's fun. If something happens, certain people think you're going to react a certain way, especially your family and friends. Something happens. Something like priceless, or what, not priceless, like an antique breaks in your house, and everyone looks at you, and they're waiting for you to go, I can't believe it. And you go, oh, well, it's only a material thing. And then they'll go like, where did my mother go, and who is this person? You know, you give them a different reaction than the one you always did, and you know what? It is only a material thing. It is something that, how many times did you see Katrina or whatever, where people's whole possessions were taken away, and they said, at least we have each other. So I'm trying to put myself in different spots, and I'm trying to toughen up. I might seem tough. People might say, oh, Ellen, she's tough. I am like jelly. All someone has to do is look at me cross-eyed and I start the train. Maybe they're mad at me. Maybe I did something wrong, but I try so hard and I work so hard. But do they know how much I care? And that train starts speeding along the path. And now I'm thinking, you know, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe it has nothing to do with me. It's a certain kind of ego, don't you think, when you think everything's about you or everybody's bad mood's about you? Let it go. You know, in several sessions we used to make this motion, let it go. Just try not to let the stresses of the world get to you. We're going to stop right there because we're going to